What's up, guys? My name's Dean, or as most of you know me, Twisty, and it is time to wrap up round 6 of the AFL season. We're going to take a look at the ladder straight away. Let's go. As we see, North Melbourne 6 and zip on the top of the ladder, and then Geelong, Sydney, both 5 and 1, and then you've got the Bulldogs, the Giants, West Coast, Adelaide, and the Hawks, all on 4 wins, 2 losses. Fremantle down the bottom there, 0 and 6. Now, I do not see the top 8 changing at all. I see positional changes, but I don't see any teams going in, and I don't see any teams going out. I think that's going to be the final top 8 at the end of the year. They say normally 1 or 2 changes after round 7, but this is it. These are the top 8 teams in the competition right now. I highly doubt you'll see anyone else jumping in or dropping out. Because if you look who's going to drop out, maybe the Giants, maybe the Bulldogs. They're the only 2 that you're potentially uncertain that will make the 8. But I don't see any of the other teams going in. Gold Coast is a maybe going in. Port Adelaide is very unlikely as well. So I just think that's the top 8. They're all set. And I think that there are 8 genuine premiership contenders in that list. So it'll be interesting to see where the positions are at the end of the season and who will actually come out on top later on. But let's look at Friday night's game. We've got North Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs. 16-point winners. North Melbourne over the Bulldogs. Jared Waite kicked 4 goals. He's in outstanding form. Probably one of the best players in the competition right now. He's just so efficient going forward with the ball. Wells had 27 touches. The Bulldogs had almost 100 more disposals in this game, but they just weren't able to make the most of their opportunities. I think that that's where they were really let down here. They've been really good in their defensive part of the game, but it was their attacking that really let them down this week, and that's where North Melbourne were very good. Their defence was very good this week, and the Tarrant was pretty damn good. Thompson was great as well. So I think if the Bulldogs are going to push through to September, obviously, their injuries need to sort of stack up a little bit. They need to have those players come in and fill that role, but they do need to be a little better in their attacking forward line. I think Stringer needs to play a little bit better. He's been a little bit down lately, so come on, the Bulldogs. You can pick it up. I believe in you. And then we look at Saturday's game, and this was probably the most surprising result for myself this weekend, was that the Saints beat Melbourne. Melbourne, Jesse Hogan kicked 7 goals, just a lazy 7 goals. Membra kicked 5. And this was another good game as well that, I probably didn't see coming. This is what Melbourne do, and this is why they won't make the 8. I said they were only going to win 8 games this year. And this is why, because every time they get a good win, they get ahead of themselves. And they think that they're better than they really are. They come up against a team of St Kilda who are always hungry. They look hungry every week. And the pressure that St Kilda apply, they just look like a strong team. I like the way they're going about it. They're going to be good in a couple of years' time. But, they're a side that will pop up and they will beat you if you're not on that day. So, Saints, good win against the D's there. Hogan was close to best on ground, but not quite. Then we look at the other Saturday afternoon game, Adelaide and Fremantle. This is a biggie, because Fremantle are 0 and 6 now. So we can make all those 0 and 6 jokes. They were 9 and zip at last year after 9 rounds. They're looking like they're going to be 0 and 8. I think. Who have they got in the next couple of weeks? They got coming up next week. They play against the Giants. I don't think they're going to win that game. Then they play against Hawthorn. I don't think they're going to win that game. And then they play Richmond, who actually stopped their undefeated run last year, and that could be the potential game where they stop their losing streak. So that's pretty ironic, I think. And then they'll be 1 and 8 if they win that game, or 0 and 9 if they do in fact lose it. But they played against the Crows this week, and the Crows were very good. Betts kicked 4 goals, Jenkins kicked a couple, Lynch kicked a couple, Walters kicked 3. Pavlich was very inaccurate in front of goal, and I think that's really where Fremantle cost themselves this week, is that they kicked 8 goals, 16. They didn't really take their opportunities going forward, and that's something that you need to do, especially in this tight of a competition. You need to take your opportunities against a good side, against any side really, because if you don't, then that can come back to bite you come the end of the game, and obviously they've lost by 33 points here. So Crows very good as usual. I'll expect that they'll be in the finals race come later in the year. Next Saturday twilight, the Giants smashed the Hawks. I said they would win. I didn't know how big it would be. Stevie J kicked 5, Lobb kicked 4, Scully kicked 3, I think Cameron kicked 3, I think Palmer kicked 3 as well. Gunston kicked 5 for the Hawks. But the Giants, gee, they look good. They had 11 players with more than 20 disposals. The Hawks only had 3. So that was something that they just won the ball. They only won the contested possessions by about 12 or 13. But it was just they're so dangerous in that forward line. You look at Lobb, you look at Cameron, you look at Patton, you look at Stevie J, you look at Palmer when he goes up there, you look at Devon Smith. You just list all of their players, and they're all goal kickers. They're all goal-kicking midfielders as well. All of their midfielders can push up. You see Shield kick a couple every other week. Scully kicks goals. They just work forward, and this week they worked a lot of defensively as well. So they're a really dangerous side, and they could do damage in September. But the thing is, it's such an even race right now that I don't know who's going to be where. I don't think they'll lose a game at Spotless Stadium this year. Might lose a couple in Canberra, but I don't think they'll lose any in Spotless. The Giants, they will be a force to be reckoned with over there. Now let's take a look at the Coleman Riddle race. Speaking of goals, Tom Lynch for the Gold Coast Suns up to 24, only kicked 2 this week. Buddy kicked 5. He's into second place. Waite kicked another 4. Gets him to 22. Jack Rewald is up there. Kennedy kicked 3 goals, 6 this week, so he could potentially have had 9 goals. Hogan jumped up there. He's on 16. And then you see a couple of other players. Rewald with 15 and Hawkins on 14 goals there. Let's take a look at Saturday night. I was at this game, the Tigers against Port. I really wanted to leave at half time. I was just kind of stuffed from everything that happened on Saturday, but it just didn't look like we were going to win. I think the margin at half time might have only been about 20 points or so. Let me have a look. Yeah, so the margin at half time was only about 16 points, and I could already see that we weren't going to win the game. A lot of our players aren't playing very well. This is Richmond I'm talking about here. They have a lot more they had about 20 more disposals than Port, so not a huge one. We won contested ball, we won the clearances, but they just lack of skills going forward was really the issue here. Rewald obviously kicked 3. He's always going to be pretty accurate in front of goal. Delidio kicked 1. Not a bad return game for him. He'll get better, obviously, in the weeks to come. Cochin, big injury, so he'll be out for a couple of weeks, as well as losing Kane Lambert in that first quarter. Really hurt Richmond's rotations, I think. It kind of gets underestimated now that, once a player goes down, you don't have that sub rule, so you don't have the option to switch out a player. I think that's happened to Richmond about 3 or 4 times this season, so is a little bit of an annoying thing. And now we obviously see the benefit of that sub rule, but we finished with about 12 less rotations, so obviously less minutes on the bench. Obviously Port will be able to run over the top a bit easier. Impey was very good. I think Pollock was the best man on the ground, had 23 touches, and just looked dangerous every time we got near it. Broadbent also very good and kicked a very nice long goal there. And Grigg was probably Richmond's best player on the day. But then over down the other side, you had Geelong absolutely smashing the Suns to the tune of 20 goals. Hawkins kicked 4, Kirsten kicked 4, Motlop kicked 3, Cockatoo kicked 3 as well. For the Suns, Lynch only had a couple. And then, look at the Cats midfield. It was Selwood, it was Caddy, it was Dangerfield, it was Bartel. And they just really looked very good. I caught some of the highlights of it after I got back home. But Geelong, they are a very dangerous side when they get scoring on a roll. And the Gold Coast, they're not yet capable of taking that next step yet. I think they might lose a couple more players at the end of the year who will request trades out. So it may be a difficult time for the Gold Coast here. I think they're going to do the Fremantle route in terms of when the two clubs came in. I think Fremantle and Port Adelaide came in the same year. Port Adelaide won the flag in 2004. Fremantle yet to win a flag. I think the Gold Coast might be that team that does the Fremantle thing. He's yet to win a flag, and the Giants will be that team that does win the flag first. I think they might have had a little bit more picks in the compromise drafts, the Giants. So that could be half a reason, but They're just very good, GWS, I think, and they'll be much better than the Suns. But Geelong were very good Geelong. Then we had Stretchergate here, Brisbane v Sydney. The Lions going down by 3 points in the end. This was a very exciting game. I tweeted out just before the game started, or maybe just after the game started, I said Brisbane will win this game because strange things happen at the Gabba sometimes in these types of matches. It was pouring down rain for the first 3 quarters of the match, so I was surprised at how high scoring it ended up being. Christensen kicked 3, Rich kicked 3, Hanley kicked a couple, he was very good, and Zorko was very good as well, had 33 touches. For the Swans, Buddy was the difference, kicked 5 goals. Parker, Hewitt kicked 3 each. But the big talking point out of this was the stretcher moment late in the game. It was Hanley versus McVeigh, I think, in the Brisbane forward 50. The ball's along the ground. Sinclair was down the opposite end of the ground, and it actually just got up and started running towards the bench, and they called for a stretcher or something like that. So it was quite bizarre, and it ended up being with a stoppage. Sydney go down the other end, kick a goal. 9-point lead with a minute to go. So Brisbane only kicked that goal with 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. And they have all reasons to be filthy. They should have won this game. I think they were very disappointed that they didn't win it. And yeah, that's one of the disappointing things. There's a live ball that was to be won, and they look dangerous. So I am annoyed that Brisbane didn't win this game. Obviously, I still tipped Sydney, but I'm very annoyed that Brisbane didn't win. Let's take a look at some of the injuries before we get through the last couple of games. Kane Turner with a hamstring, Wright with the ankle, Liv out of cork, Harms out of cork, Salem, Frawley got concussed. Seb Ross had a shoulder injury. So did Jacob Wiedering as well. He went down with a shoulder injury. Ryan Griffin was out with his back. Callum Sinclair had the knee, but they called for the stretcher. No stretcher. Jacob Wiedering with the shoulder. I said that. And Trent Cotchin with the cheekbone. Missed 2 to 4 weeks for the Tigers. Probably the biggest injury of the week. And Kane Lambert with the punctured lung will miss a number of weeks as well. Trent McKenzie had the ankle injury. And that's pretty much everything covered. A lot of those players might, play next week anyway. But let's go to the MCG, where this was one of the most extraordinarily rubbish games you would have ever seen. The first 3 quarters, I think 9 goals were kicked, and then there were 9 goals kicked in the last quarter. So it was quite a bizarre game to watch. You just couldn't really look away from it because you didn't know what was going to happen next. I think at 3/4 time, what were the scores? It was super low scoring. At 3/4 time, the scores were 32 to 39. Like, quite bizarre that they ended up this high in the end, or, much higher in the end. But Wright was very good, kicked a couple goals. Gibbs, Murphy, and Dale Thomas, he had a stellar performance there. And the Bombers, they were pretty ordinary, I must say. And the last quarter was quite bizarre. Essendon kicked the first goal, and then Carlton kicked the next 4. You thought it was game over. Essendon kicked the next 3, back to 8 points. And then Carlton kicked another one and made sure that they were going to win that game. They got over the line by 15 points in the end. But Carlton are on the right track. We know that. Wiedering went down with a shoulder, so that was probably the only downside for them in that game. But they're on the right track. Essendon, as we know, they're missing a lot of players. They'll be much better for the run next year with all these young kids getting games. So that's pretty much all I have to say on this matter. And then the final game of the round was double the score, 62-point win to the West Coast Eagles, 124 to 62. Kennedy kicked 3 goals, 6. He could have had 9. Oh my god. Lacroix 3-3. Cripps kicked 3 as well. And for the Pies, Mason Cox kicked a couple, Moore kicked a couple, Broomhead kicked a couple. Lacroix had 27 touches. Collingwood are pretty much dominating for a lot of this game, and I think that's where they've let themselves down here, is that they were in control for most of the match. It just sort of, at the first quarter and the last quarter, they just faded a little bit, especially in that last quarter. It was only 20-something points at 3/4 time, and then to lose by 62, that's a big fade out in that last quarter, and they'll be very disappointed with that. They controlled the middle portion of the game. It was just early on that they couldn't get it done, and late as well. So I think the Eagles, they're a very good side at home. I still think they're flat track bullies. I don't know if they'll be as good as they were last year when they went to grand final. Don't think it's possible that they will do that again, or like such a tight race. But I think they'll be bottom half of the top 8. Maybe a home final. That's where I think they're at the moment, and that's probably where they think they're at as well. So, good round of football. A lot of good games that happened. Brisbane could have been a big upset, but St Kilda was probably the upset of the round. And of course, the big talking point's always Richmond. Another loss, and they're the things. And Hawthorn, they're now been knocked off their mantle finally. So stop the free kick Hawthorn memes. Anyway, leave a big thumbs up if you did enjoy today's video. It was good to bring you the news of the AFL. Round 6 today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later.